Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Free Speech on Air. My name is Francis Capelle, and this is a Free Speech on Air special in the sense that I'm going to do this one in English, the best English I can come up with. And it goes out to Fred, his friends, Fred Swemmer, his friends, and his soon-to-be wife. I'm ecstatic about that. Fred Swemmer is actually gonna marry. And he pulled it off. I know how you did it, Fred. You pulled it off just like Larry Silverstein pulled it off on 9/11. You did something great. You did something great. And I'm proud. Yeah. Well, my name is Francis Capelle. And in case you might wonder, what's this free speech on air mumbo jumbo doing on Fred's page? Well, free speech on air is a show. You cannot even call it a show. It's not a show. It's not a program of any kind. There are no donations. It has no broad audience. It's just basically me, Francis Capelle, born in the Netherlands on the 24th of June 1968 and still residing there. It's just me and this voice recorder, and basically voicing my opinion based on thoughts and feelings and experiences that are mine and mine only, and trying to reach people and find out what they think about geopolitics and all the things that we see in this world, the visible darkness that our governments produce basically day in, day out. It became, in my opinion, a kind of darkness that is so thick and so self-evident that it almost turned into sunlight for each and everybody to notice, right? And that's the way I see things. So I was voicing my opinion and showing things about our country, about Holland, that little tiny country, hardly to be found on the map in Europe. And Fred Swemmer, a Dutch guy also, but he decided to leave Holland for whatever it is, go to the States and find a new existence, find new space, gain some weight, American barbecues and all those things. And he succeeded in that. He's a great guy, a class A guy. And but he was listening. He was listening to all the things that were happening on the internet and the things that happened in Holland, of course, but because that's where he's from. And so one day he found me, and he listened in, and he was my audience almost. There were not a lot of people listening to the things I had to say, the things I was thinking, but he kept listening in, and we became friends. We are friends now for a long time. I never actually met this guy. I've never met him. I never shook his hand. It's a dream. It's something that I want, pretty desperately almost. I would like to meet this guy because he was always there in hard times, in good times. He never let me down. He was always there, and it's just crazy that we live in times that make it possible to find somebody who's hiding out basically in Utah, close to Salt Lake City, and just be able to talk to him or to interact with him without even leaving your home that is based in Holland. That's I still think it's a miracle, but that's how it went down, and we are friends until this day. And I never met him. I simply don't have the money to travel, and there are lots of other things that prevent me to jump a plane and fly to the States and say, hey Fred, how you doing? Finally we meet. There you are. No, can't do that. Not now, at least, and not these days. But it's something that I want. It's something that I always wanted, basically. You see, many people believe that Holland is a country that, you know, it's liberal, it's free, it's almost there's a freedom beyond belief. I remember I lived in Amsterdam for quite a while, and many American tourists were there, you know, wondering how this could be. There was the red light district, and there were the coffee shops, the pot. You could smoke pot on the streets. Nobody would arrest you. It was basically the summit of freedom, but that's not what it is, guys. That's not what it is at all. If you really study history, you would be surprised who's running this country, who are the guys who are running this country, what they did to the general population, and how the laws are set up in such a way that each and everybody that was actually born here is basically doomed to whether spend their lives on minimum wages or on government benefits. And it's a very difficult country, believe me. It has nothing to do with freedom. Before the Second World War became a fact in 1939, and this was mainstream news. There are lots of papers who wrote about that. In 1939, the end of 1939, the Dutch government went to the German government to express their joy that the attempt to kill Hitler failed. Now think about that. Think about that. The Dutch government went to the German government in 1939 and to express their joy because the coup, or the plot to kill Hitler, the first plot to kill Hitler, had failed. Now, if it's true that the government is the representative of the people, you could say that the Dutch people went over there to express their joy for the failing of the plot to kill Hitler. Unbelievable, right? But that's exactly what happened in history. And there were lots of other things. For instance, in the same year, 1939, the royal buildings that we had in Holland, so the big companies that belonged to the royal family, they already had the flags outside bearing the swastika. So before Hitler even invaded, his flags, his colors, his might was already shown, reflected in our country by putting it up on all the royal factories, all the big companies in that time. And this is an historical fact. It becomes even more crazy because before Hitler ever invaded our country, the Dutch colonials, in history, the Dutch colonials had forced the world to accept that the Dutch were the only ones who had a monopoly on coca leaves. And that monopoly still stands today. So if you really think about it, all the cocaine in the world, doesn't matter where it is sold or where it is pushed, it belongs to us. Might surprise you, might not surprise you, I don't know, but we are the holders of a worldwide monopoly of cocaine. All the cocaine in the world, basically, no matter where it's found or where it's produced or how it's created, the monopoly of that product belongs to us. So think about that for a while. And the royal family, our royal family, and this is no secret. It's common history. This is everywhere to be found now. our Royal Dutch family owned a factory called the NCF. The NCF. And it stood for the Nederlandse Cocaïnefabriek. I repeat, in Dutch, the Nederlandse Cocaïnefabriek. And it means the Dutch cocaine factory. Dutch cocaine factory, the Nederlandse Cocaïnefabriek. And this factory produced cocaine and sold it to the German army to make sure that the German army could withstand a long time, could do without sleep, could do without food even. Pushed the German army into a mass of high and drug-crazed individuals to beat our own army. And this is also an historical fact. It's not something that I think. It's not an opinion that I base on whatever. It's just a historical fact. Well hidden back then, but it all came out later. So, the Dutch army was doomed. And it was, you cannot believe it, but you know, our army back then, some soldiers had to grab a bike to get to wherever it was that they suspected the German would come into this country. They had to grab a bicycle, an old gun. They had guns, you know, they were so old. Some of those guns exploded in the hands of soldiers. It was just unbelievable. And the royals went to England and left our country wide open. The Germans did not have to storm the buildings to put their flags in place and their colors in place, because it was already there. In 1939, there are pictures, you just dig them up in mainstream media, but also you can find them in the archives, the war archives of our country. Pictures of our royals, you know, standing together, bringing the Hitler salute. Now, after when our royals were in England, they started to order the Dutch railroad company, NS, to create a system, a real system, that made it possible to displace a lot of people in one run, basically. And they ordered camps, 2 camps. We had a camp in Amersfoort and another camp, and they were basically helping, they were helping the Nazis to achieve their goal, using this country to get to Belgium and to other countries, and that's it, folks. Now, after the Second World War, we were still building German warships and delivered them to Germany after it was beaten, so-called beaten. It was Prince Bernhard, our Prince Bernhard, who was deeply involved in die Nacht der langen Messer, the night of the long knives. It was a SS operation in which many people were killed, brutally stabbed, using the long knives that they were bearing on their guns. Prince Bernhard was not only part of that SS regiment, but he was also involved in the Red Cross. The Red Cross, after the World War, created thousands and thousands and thousands of false documents, something like 60,000 false documents for the higher up Nazis and war criminals, so they could escape Germany, they could escape Nuremberg, they could escape justice via our country. And of course the Royal Dutch Airlines, KLM, they used the KLM to put Mengele and all those people out, get them out to South America, and some of them get them out, like Werner von Braun and others, get them out to the United States of America, where they founded NASA and other things. So our country was deeply involved in all of that, and it has nothing to do with conspiracy theory, it has nothing to do with a strange way of thinking, it has nothing to do with fear-mongering, it has everything to do with just reciting plain history. History that was recorded in mainstream articles, in the national archives that we have here, and it's everywhere to be found. So in a nutshell, what did we do? We created a worldwide monopoly. We had a worldwide monopoly. We sold cocaine to the German army. We helped the top dogs of that army escape. Mengele, Werner von Braun, a lot of others, you know. We helped them escape, the royal family did. And then the royal family returned. And now, this is the most crazy part, the royal family returned and created a new government, not chosen by the people. It was the government of Schemerhorn-Drees. Schemerhorn-Drees. It was the first cabinet that we had on Dutch soil after the World War, the Second World War. And our queen back then, Wilhelmina, used that cabinet and that government to do to continue what the Nazis did in our country. It was the first time in history that the mainstream media started to protest against that. And so it failed later. But we still have laws. The complete blueprint for our state was created in 1941. It's called Staatsrecht 1940-41. It's basically the law of the state 1940-1941, shaped by the top dogs of the Nazi organization. And that blueprint for the Nazi state, how the government should work, where the key positions are, all that is still effective in our country today. It was never dismantled. This country, Holland, still functions as Berlin did during those 5 years. Excuse me, during the 5 years that Hitler, was in charge. So this is not a free country. Holland is a modern day Berlin. And our laws are shaped, created, and dictated by the Nazis. And we still have to obey that set of rules. It's still here. It's not a secret. It's just what it is. Now, isn't that a smack in the face? Isn't that a smack in the face of all those guys that came from, for instance, Wisconsin or Minnesota or Texas or wherever they came from, pulled off their farms, pulled away by their families, dying here in this country that they had never seen before, that they didn't know. They are still here, their bodies are still here, the national graves are still there. Without This government even having the decency to dismantle the Nazi state afterwards. Because that's how I look at it. That's what I feel in a story like this. So I learned that power is a terrible thing. If you allow power to dictate your direction, the direction of your thinking, the direction of your, of your personality, you are basically duped and fooled into repeating history, but with the outcome is terrible. Global this time. You see, our governments are pushing now for World War III. You cannot deny that. The German government has asked its population a couple of days ago to start to store water and food. Something they would never do. But they have asked the German population to do exactly that. In the Ukraine, the same thing has happened. Here in Holland, suddenly it was in mainstream news that we were asked if we were prepared for nuclear poisoning. What to do if you get nuclear poisoned? That question was asked on Dutch television. Guys, it's unbelievable, but they are pushing us into a thermonuclear war. You know, and I say this to Fred and all those people who listen, his friends or whoever, I don't know. If we want humanity to sustain humanity, but also if we want humanity to be victorious, we have to start behaving like human beings. We have to start to behave like true human beings, because we have a conscience. We have inside knowledge. We have all that. And we need to act on it, not to deny it. If we want to save humanity, or we want humanity to be victorious, then we have to act like it. We have to stop choosing the people who fight incredible unjust and dark wars. Killing off 500,000 children here, 2 million people there, killing off infrastructures, water plants, poison people through food, water, all that. We need to stop this. We need to stop our alliance towards governments who behave this way. We need to return to ourselves. We need to question ourselves. And we need to admit that we have a spirit inside us that doesn't want it. Your conscience doesn't want it. Your mind doesn't want it. That's why it's creating so many excuses to go along with it. Because it's scared. It is scared to face the consequence, to face the things that are really going on. It is already scared into submission, but we can prevail if we just take some steps back, look at ourselves. Who am I? What do I feel? How do I feel about the murder of 500,000 children? Is it worth it? And I believe that I can safely state now that you will not come to a conclusion like that. You will not judge that it would be worth it. Kill off 500,000 children, 2 million people in order to sustain your oil-related products. Because if we live in an economy that needs more and more death and mayhem and chaos and destruction to reach a point that, you know, to build the reason for its existence, while at the other hand it's not even an economy that makes somebody happy. If you really think, are you really happy with it? Is this really, is that all what's life's all about? Is it all about a car, about a television set, about a radio, about some plastic things? I mean, think about that. Ask yourself, you know, what you can do. But I think we need to triple our efforts to speak out, to make ourselves known to each other and to our governments, and, you know, break away from this kind of behavior. And that's all I have to say for today. And I'm sorry I'm sure I made many spelling or grammar mistakes, but you have to remember I didn't go to school much. The English, the American I come up with is just a imitation or mimic of the sound that I picked up from movies, documentaries, television, that kind of thing. But I'm willing, you know, to give it my best, to give it my best shot to get some points across there. Things that you might know or, you know, might not have known, but to reach out there, guys. And before I go, I want to say this, you know, support those people, no matter what you think of them, who are willing to step forward and showing you the other side of the coin. Because not only it doesn't only take a lot of courage. You could be in a position like I found myself in when I protested the Dutch government and all kinds of internal issues we had here, that they take away your house and your income. They did that to me. But you are a beautiful human being with the inside power to resist them. Amen to that. Greetings to the United States of America, because no matter where you turn, each and every country, the general population, whether it are the Americans or the Canadians or the Germans or the Dutch or the people from France or Turkey or Russia, the general population is good. Most of the people are just, you know, normal human beings that want to live in peace, want to be left alone, want to do whatever it is that they want to do, whatever it is that they seem fit to do, and we have to remember that. Francis Capelle, free speech on air for today. God bless you, God bless the United States of America, not its government, but its states and its people. God bless you, God bless your family, your children, and Fred, thank you for listening, my man. Free speech on air, Francis Capelle.